My next guest is a singer, an athlete, one of PETA's most beautiful vegans over the age of 50, and he has an incredible story to tell. So often we hear about people coming on the show who have lost a whole lot of weight by changing their diet. But my guest today has actually gone from being pretty skinny to now being a buff bodybuilding machine. He is fantastic. And oh, what a set of pipes he has on him. Such a great singer. I want to welcome to the show, please, Bülent Güneralp. Thank you so very much for being here, my friend.
Hi, Chuck. Thank you so much. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity.
It is such a pleasure to finally get an opportunity to speak with you because I've been watching you on Instagram for a long time now and have just been blown away by your transformation. You have such an incredibly unique story.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, it's an amazing journey. It's an amazing journey.
An amazing journey. And let's talk about your background a little bit, just so we can kind of introduce you a little bit more to the audience, because I think they're going to fall in love with everything that you have done so far in your life. And we should say right off of the top, you are a trained professional opera singer, correct?
That is correct. That is correct. Yes.
Let's talk about your singing endeavors before we get into your diet and your transformation. Some of the videos that you have posted on your Instagram show you up on a stage and in front of a pretty sizable audience. So where have you sung? Where have those talents taken you so far?
Yeah, I started studying opera through my mother's encouragement in Istanbul. I'm from Istanbul, Turkey. So I went to the Istanbul University State Conservatory there. And then I came to the US through a scholarship after meeting a wonderful conductor in Istanbul. And I performed under his direction Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, and as I said, through whom I came here. Then we went to Japan. We performed, Handel's Messiah, and the video that I shared with you, that opening tenor performance, is from that, and the following bass baritone performance is also from the same Handel's Messiah oratorio. So there is the big transformation. Yes, so basically I performed in Turkey, in Japan, and in the US, in different states. What is quite interesting is I started my journey as a baritone. I was accepted to the first conservatory as a baritone. After 1 year, I was switched to tenor. Then a totally different journey started. I believed I was a tenor, but I wasn't. So that created a very difficult journey for me. But I believe there's a reason for many things. That journey brought me to this point, and we'll discuss these, I'm sure, today.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So basically, this is the basic outline.
That is the career in a nutshell, and I'm sure that we will touch a little bit more on it. And I really hope that you get an opportunity to hear this man sing, because my goodness gracious, he does have a golden set of pipes on him. It's just incredible. It's that classic opera sound that it's from the gut, and it's so just powerful. It's so cool what you're able to do with your voice. But let's talk about your physical transformation as well. The earlier videos that you have posted really do show this guy with such an incredibly powerful voice on stage, but your body didn't necessarily match the same kind of power that your voice was projecting. You were on the thin side, certainly not this big, hulking, muscular kind of guy that we see in front of us today. How in the world did you go from being that small guy to now just having muscles for days?
Yeah. Well, I was doing conventional bodybuilding many years ago, maybe in the 90s. So I was growing. Then I continued that as I was studying opera in Istanbul. Then I came here. I went to London School of Music and then the Boston Conservatory. In those years, my focus was only singing, nothing else. So all those previous gains just disappeared. I should also mention that 2 years before I came to the US, I came here in 1998. 2 years before that, I became a vegetarian.
Mm-hmm. This was 1996?
Right, 1996. As far as I remember, it was 1996, when my mother gave me a book about vegetarianism. It changed everything for me. So I came to the US as a vegetarian, and I had no idea about veganism or plant-based diet, etc. It was, yes, 2011. 2011, I discovered Brandon Brazier's Thrive Diet, which changed everything for me, all my life. It fueled every aspect of my life. When I read the main book, I was transformed. When I read the fitness book, Thrive Fitness, then I started, I basically resumed the physical activities. But this time, just functional training, meaning using only my body as the weight. That journey, starting roughly in 2011, brought me to this interesting point of basically creating the vocabulary system for voice, singing, and speech. And functional bodyweight training is part of that training, the vocal training. So since 2011, up to this point, I saw this interesting growth. And it's what is extra interesting is that not necessarily I was trying to become a bodybuilder. It's just something is happening there, something beautiful. I'm looking at that, oh, this is very interesting, as if I'm looking at a flower or a beautiful animal, something, taking a photo video, and I started to share these. Now, that's kind of the answer to your question, you know, how this physical development occurred.
There we go. So let's talk about how your diet, though, evolved. I'm curious, prior to 1996, when your mother gave you that book, what was your diet like? You were still over in Istanbul at that point, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so what was the typical diet like for you before you started to eat that vegetarian diet?
It was omnivorous. You know, I was eating things that I thought was healthy. I was always health conscious. But I was a sleeper. So what I mean by this is, I feel there are three kinds of, if I may say, people: sleepers who can be awakened easily, who are ready to receive the message, and I was one of them. And the second category is people who are already awake, who don't need to hear this message. And the third category is people who are asleep, but they dream that they are already awake. So those, I don't think, if I might say, I don't think it's easy to reach their hearts with this message. So I was basically eating, I don't want to even say meat, you know, up to 1996, you know, dairy, meat, you know, basically it was omnivorous.
Right.
Yeah. In 1996, my dear mother gave me that book. I read that and I immediately just woke up from my dream.
Right.
And I said, gosh, what's happening to animals? I always loved animals. I grew up with them. You know, in Üsküdar, Istanbul, in my backyard. And they mean so much to me. And I had no idea. Yeah, in other words, just like so many people, I had never made that connection that what I was eating was creating that hell for them. As if meat just appeared in the grocery stores, in supermarkets, as if they grew, on trees in the bushes.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So when I became a vegetarian, it was I was initially lacto-ovo vegetarian, and then I became a lacto-vegetarian, and then after I came here. Thanks to some friends and thanks to PETA's awareness campaigns, I became aware of this concept, veganism. And I said, this is the only way to live peacefully. I don't want to contribute to animal suffering because in the past, when I was a vegetarian, I was thinking, milk and eggs, and these are kind of the fruits of the animals, just like the fruits of the trees. No one is being harmed. And then I realized eggs actually, that's not a fruit. And the rest also is not fruit. So as I became aware of these issues, I said, this is not right. This is not right. This is not the right way of living. For me, it's critical to always follow my conscience,
right?
That voice, that inner voice, which I believe is universal.
Well, what I find so interesting about your story is that as you're kind of becoming awakened to that concept here, and you're changing on that front, your body also begins to change dramatically. You then had read that book by Brendan Fraser, and you go from being this lean guy, and then you kind of go back to that bodybuilding thing, except you're not exactly using traditional techniques, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But then, how did your diet evolve once you went from being vegetarian over to vegan? Give us an idea of some specific foods that you were really focusing on at that point.
Thank you for that critical question, Chuck. That's really important. As I was trying to find my way from vegetarianism to veganism, that was a journey like this, up and down, up and down. It was difficult because I had no idea that, athletes like Brendan Fraser or, all those great resources, that already clear path. I wasn't aware of them. And I was also concerned about my voice and career because what you eat affects your voice. And your voice is your full expression of who you are in every way. So I was thinking, what's going to happen to my voice? What's going to happen to my career? And I said, I don't care. I will follow my heart, my conscience. Even if I die, I don't care. Sorry, this is like a little diversion, but it's critical, I think, to mention that I believe if we follow our hearts, we can't go wrong. It's impossible. And even if we feel kind of vulnerable initially, we are protected, and ultimately, it protects us. And that's exactly what I experienced. You must be familiar with the term dharma. It became almost universal now. It came from India. And it is translated into English like the right path of righteousness, but it's much deeper than that. So in India, they say, if you protect Dharma, Dharma protects you. Or if you follow that. So that's what I try to do. And my experience proved that saying is right. So I ventured, into this journey, and I tried to experiment with some, vegan approaches, vegan food, etc. Initially, it didn't feel right. I went back to, vegetarian, this and that. And when I was a vegetarian, I was basically eating, nuts, seeds, legumes, grains, fruit, etc. It was overall healthy with the addition of, unfortunately back then, milk products.
Right.
And I must also mention that up to 1996, even despite the fact that I was exercising this and that, I always had health problems.
What kind of health problems?
Well, there was kind of overall, in general, unfortunately, mucus issues and singers. That's especially bad for singers. And easily catching cold, flu, that kind of stuff. Not too serious health problems, but imbalance. And not feeling right. That actually continued even through the vegetarian years. Because I don't believe that meat, dairy, animal products are compatible with this thing called human body. As Dr. Milton Mills so eloquently expresses scientifically, that humans are strict herbivores. So I don't believe we are omnivores who can make right or wrong choices. I believe we are strict herbivores, and instead of creating problems for ourselves, for nature, for animals, for climate, etc., why not follow our nature, our hearts? Then I'm healthy, and I'm supporting the health and happiness of everything around me, just like a cell in a big organism, right? So the way I live my life should support the whole. It should not destruct or cause suffering. So those health problems disappeared after I became vegan. And the difference and the speed with which it happened was amazing. That I think it was November 2011, I was preparing for a Christmas performance. And I was just browsing YouTube to find some things maybe that would help my voice, etc. And I saw this interesting video of an athlete, Brandon Brazier, talking about Thrive. And I felt something is happening here. I need to look into this. I got his book. I read it. This is my path. This is what I was looking for.
Right.
Yes. And crescendo started to happen in every way, in every positive way. Energy is increasing. My mind was at ease. I knew that I wasn't contributing to animal suffering or any suffering. And as my energy increased, after I also started reading Thrive Fitness, so many new horizons appeared that I started to exercise and everything. So then it was also became a wonderful, delicious journey in terms of what I ate. Wonderful recipes, health-giving, energy-giving. So it is my firm belief now that there are only two kinds of people, ultimately. People who know human nature, that is vegan, and people who don't know. Human is vegan, it's that simple. I know this will not ring right for some people, but I send them love too. I think it is critical that we all really open in, not close in, open in and see what's in us and follow that voice. There is that universal voice speaking to us. That is what we are. And that is the sky speaking through the cloud. And that is the electricity speaking through the bulb. And that is the thread or the string speaking through the beads.
You are a real soulful kind of a guy. Like, this journey is really a very deeply personal one for you. And I want to come back to that in a moment, but I want to stick with the vocal transformation here too. I'm curious about, with the vegan diet now kind of clearing up those mucosal issues that you were having, how did that affect your singing? Because I know you mentioned that you went from singing, I believe it was tenor, to singing a different key here, like a baritone. So like how did it affect your voice? Did that play a role in it? Did you just find your voice getting deeper, or how did that diet affect your singing?
Yes. So diet's effect in that sense was not necessarily in terms of changing the body hormones, etc., but it was mainly fueling the journey. Between 1991 and 2004, as I was studying in 3 different music schools, conservatories, believing that I was a tenor, what I was going through was basically a hellish journey, and I'm not blaming anyone. I love my teachers, and what I went through was very difficult to detect. I had a very flexible voice. Here's the analogy that would clarify this whole picture. Imagine you are being told you are a violin, but you are a cello or double bass. And in all those schools, you are forcing yourself to perform violin repertoire on a cello or double bass. So that would require an intense abuse of the vocal mechanism. It's very difficult mentally because you are constantly thinking, everyone is doing this. Why can I not do this? How do I breathe? My voice, my larynx was a knot. And I speak about this in detail on the vocabulary system page on my website. So that knot, in a way, was also a mental knot. And I believe in life, all problems are mental and all solutions are spiritual. So that's the message of my journey. That illusion was living there. I'm a tenor, I'm a tenor, I'm a tenor. But I wasn't. So in terms of men voice category, you have tenor at the top, baritone in the middle, bass at the bottom. And there are different colors and shades, but these are the basic categories. So after I graduated in 2004 from the Boston Conservatory, I had almost no voice left. And I had to take a break from singing. And in that break, for about 1 year, I turned in, again, I opened in, I did not close in, and I said, I will not listen to anything around me. I will just listen to my own voice. And that voice directed me to certain things that would awaken me to what I needed to see. To rise above that hell and come to where I was supposed to come. Yoga, breathing, initially, as I learned how to breathe correctly, my voice started to change because my larynx started to settle. To give a quick technical picture here, many people think that singing is about releasing the air. It has nothing to do with that. It's about keeping that air in, transforming it into pneumatic energy, and riding on that energy. And larynx needs that ground to stabilize itself. Otherwise, there is no way it can stabilize itself. So as I learned how to breathe correctly, as I got better overall, technically, my larynx started to settle, my vocal cords that were forced to perform under immense stress for years, they started to relax. And it started to come together fully, adducting, and a baritone sound emerged. Like a totally different person. From tenor to baritone.
Yeah.
Then it started to move towards bass baritone, and even New York, I even sang bass in Puccini's La Bohème, Colline. So that's, I mean, objectively speaking, that's an unbelievable journey.
That's wild, man. That's daggone. That is a wild swing that your voice had there. And to think that a diet played such an immense role in that, along with the other techniques you were talking about. You know, we hear about the diet clearing up so many of these chronic diseases, you know, whether it be high cholesterol, high blood pressure. You hear people talking about how their skin cleared up after the fact. You hear people talking about reducing the risk of cancer and all of those things. But for you, you were the only person I've spoken to. And what you're saying makes complete sense, that it had a huge impact on your voice as well, especially professionally speaking as a singer. That to me is just amazing. And I'm curious, during this time when your voice is changing as well, were you putting more of a focus on trying to build up some healthier muscles as well, going back to the bodybuilding thing? Did the muscles and the diaphragm play any role in this as well?
Yeah, so vocalization is an athletic activity. So it has no difference than any other athletic activity, basically. So in that sense, diet fueled every aspect of it. And that actually dawned on me after I read Thrive. So coming back to your question, it is important to have a healthy, fit body in order to perform vocally well. But being a bodybuilder is different than doing what I do, which is functional bodyweight training.
Right.
So I don't lift weights, I don't go to a gym, I only eat plants. And the only weight basically I use is my own body, and right now it's 205 pounds. And back then it was 154, something like that. So.
But you put on lean muscle mass compared to, you know, if you were eating the standard American diet, that would be 50 pounds, unfortunately, of fat. So you're eating clearly the right things. So let's talk about those functional exercises that you are doing. So when you say something like that, I'm envisioning you doing a bunch of push-ups. You mentioned yoga earlier. What are you doing to build those muscles?
Okay, that's very important. Now, let me get into it by addressing your previous question a little more in detail. The specific vocal organ is the larynx, but the entire body is the vocal instrument in my approach. So that's how I approached things as I was especially starting my vegan journey. Again, through things that I learned, you know, from Thrive, etc. So I said, I will really tune this instrument, the whole body. I will work on this, and I will make it a fit vocal instrument. That's the gist of it. So the physical development is the byproduct of the vocal development. And in that sense, it is critical to keep the body strong and flexible at the same time. And I combine strength and speed, and I call it strength. So what I do is this. I discovered something called jungle gym through Thrive. It's not a machine. It's a very simple thing. It's like 2 straps, and you just hang them over a door, and you use the floor, this and that. But it works your body in ways you cannot, perhaps, in a gym. So jungle gym, martial arts, yoga. I use chairs and a pull-up bar, this and that. And I'm familiar with, Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do. And it developed. So there is something, for example, called the vocathletic workouts. It's for the voice and body, and one of my students actually performs it on my website. It's fun. So that's also part of my training. I do that every morning. Basically, as I said before, this is actually vocal yoga. It may sound maybe too physical if you hear just vocathletic system. What is that? But actually, it is vocal yoga, meaning it's a complete spiritual approach to singing, vocalization, this entire picture. And that means this. For me, the body is the outer instrument, the mind is the inner instrument, and I am using them without identifying myself with them. This is critical. If I ever identified myself with them during this journey, I would not be here. At the end with this, if I might say, successful finish. If I believed that I was a tenor back then, if I identified myself with that, I would not have been able to leave it, behind and move towards my natural voice. So I trusted my inner voice, and I just left myself into this journey. So these are my instruments. I love them. I work on them. I work with them. I shake them. I keep them healthy. But it is critical not to identify with them, in my opinion. I am what I am, nothing else.
I am what I am. Again, you are a soulful dude. Like for you, when you ask that question to somebody, a lot of times they'll just give you a list of their routine. I do 5 of these, 10 of these, then I do 15 minutes of cardio, then I hit the weights, then I do this. And it's a very regimented list that they will give you. But for you, it's just so much deeper than that. I guess the way to sum it up in lay terms is you march to the beat of your own drum. And ordinarily, I would not have the foggiest idea about what somebody who is speaking like you is talking about, right? But what I identify with is really listening to that inner voice. So for me, I stopped listening to everybody else and all of that outer noise as well when I was finally able to lose weight and to keep it off. I stopped trying to get those exact recipes for success, trying to follow somebody else's formula for success. And I started to listen to that little voice inside. And for me, that was like, okay, well, you don't need to go to the gym and you don't need to go on this big regimented diet plan. What you need to do is trust your gut. And what I discovered worked best for me was just going outside and taking a walk. And it got up to 5 miles a day. And so that was the extent basically of my exercise during my weight loss. And then it was just eating foods that made me feel good, but weren't loaded with fat. And so I did not yet know about plant-based diets or being vegan or anything like that, but I was identifying with foods that made me feel good inside and out. And that just, it rings true to me what you were just describing. the success that a person can have, whether it's you, whether it's me, whether it's anybody, if they just start listening to that little voice that's always been there to help guide them along. Wouldn't you say that's right?
Absolutely. It's amazing. The other day I was watching a video, Dean Ornish, speak about this exact thing, and how in his practice he discovered certain revolutionary things just by listening to that little voice. He also calls it little voice. I actually call it the big voice because it's there. It's, if we tune into it, it's loud and clear. But tuning into it is the critical thing, and how we live in every aspect of our lives is critical in terms of being able to tune into that voice. I mean, if I want to tune into a specific channel, right, on my TV or radio, I don't have a TV, by the way, I don't watch TV. I need to tune into that specific, say number, 90, this and that, right? So there is that specific thing inside, and we need to find that number, let's say 1, right? That number, oneness. If we don't tune into it, then it's all noise. Yep. Static noise. And that static noise, is both external and external, meaning mind. To be able to turn in, opening in. This is critical, not closing in, but opening in. There is a word in us, a spiritual word, which is indescribable. All over the world, throughout history, in different cultures, in different paths, all people entered this world and they all experienced the same thing, because it's one. It's the same sky all clouds experience. And we can call it love, whatever we want to call it. So that is the basis of my life, my journey. And my journey does not make me more important than anyone, not even an iota. For me, there is no difference between this person and what you see in this room, my neighbors, my animal friends around the world. For me, what is important is to focus on that thing that is the same in all of us. So if I quickly share with you a few John Denver quotes.
Oh, for sure. Love John Denver. Love John Denver.
Yeah. So John Denver means a lot to me. He was a wonderful musician, singer, songwriter, guitar player, artist, poet laureate of, I believe, Colorado, and great activist. Here are a few quotes related to the things that we are discussing. He says, "Music does bring people together. It allows us to experience the same emotions. People everywhere are the same in heart and spirit. No matter what language we speak, what color we are, the form of our politics, or the expression of our love and our faith, music proves we are the same." He says, "We must begin to make what I call conscious choices, and to really recognize that we are the same. It's from that place in my heart that I write my songs." And one more. "Commit yourself to do whatever it is you can contribute. Commit yourself to do whatever it is you can contribute in order to create a healthy and sustainable future. The world needs you desperately. Find that in yourself and make a commitment. That is what will change the world."
John Denver, man, you could say that he was a little bit ahead of his time, but he made the most of the time that he had here on this earth. I was introduced to him at a very young age. He has this song called Calypso that he wrote for Jacques Cousteau. One of Jacques Cousteau's boats was named Calypso, and they would go out and they would explore the oceans, and they were very big on protecting the oceans and the environment. So that's how I was introduced to John Denver, because my mom worked for the Cousteau Society. So at a young age, I remember listening to his music and just kind of being like, man, that's another soulful dude right there. And so I'm really glad that you were able to bring him into the conversation today. But we are kind of running out of time here a little bit. And I want to ask you a little bit more about food here. I know that you say you only eat one time a day. So I think that somebody listening right now, and of course, we're encouraging them to kind of listen to their own big voice, as you say. So find what works for you. That's the way that I would say it. What is it, though, that you are eating on a regular basis each day, just to kind of give people who are watching this and listening to this an idea as to what your diet looks like?
Yes. I eat one solid meal a day. The rest is basically smoothies, fruit, nuts, etc. Here's my general routine. I wake up, I have some water, and then I drink a half cup of kombucha, making sure there is no sugar in it, cane sugar. Then I have these, by the way, these are not back to back. So I have, my day is progressing, and this is the progression of kind of the food picture. So after that, I have a specific smoothie that I transformed. I discovered in Thrive, but I made the whole food plant exclusive version of it. I would be happy to, at some point, to share the recipe. So I drink that. Then I have my piano practice, and I drum almost all day in different ways. Then I have my pre-workout smoothie. Then I do my workout, which is 45 minutes, sometimes 1 hour. Then I go to the inversion table. I forgot to mention that it looks like I also added some height. Because of the inversion table, I've been doing it for years. Because when you are on the inversion table, you are completely upside down.
Right.
I was also thinking that, maybe I would do this interview in the inversion table, but it might be a little disorienting for upside down. And then I have my post-workout smoothie. Then to continue the repair, a regular smoothie. So these are every day. And basically those are the same smoothies. I don't kind of change them much. Now, I know that it is not ideal for many people to have the main meal later in the day, but it turned out that basically the main meal I eat is dinner. Maybe it will change in time, but not a heavy dinner. And I find if anyone out there dealing with sleep issues, it is very helpful to have oatmeal at night, hemp milk, oatmeal, and then the richest source of melatonin in nature, tart cherries. This kind of light evening meal creates the perfect ground for a peaceful deep sleep. Also, left nostril breathing, which calms everything. So doing that also, even in bed, helps some fall in. I lost myself here on the screen. Am I back?
Yes, you're back. Hello.
Okay. So I don't know how much time we left, but basically this, I don't drink much water because smoothies give me a lot of water. Also in the morning hours, I have 1 cup of black tea and then 1 cup of green tea, usually. This is the basic dietary picture. What I want to emphasize before we stop is this. I'm delighted to chat as long as you want, but I want to be respectful of your time. This whole journey was very difficult, was very challenging, but I trusted what I am, and it brought me to this point. As I said, I'm not more important than anyone else out there. Everyone is dealing with serious things. My message to everyone is trust who you really are, because this journey showed me this. There are 3 I's. What we think we are, what others think we are, and what we really are. And this journey gets rid of these 2 illusions, the first 2, and it shows us what we really are. In that sense, diet is critical, because what we eat, nutrients, vitamins, minerals, this and that, yeah, those are very important. But at deeper levels, there are other things that we can discuss. For example, in India, China, Japan, there are terms that they use, prana, ki, chi, etc., universal energy. Raw food has this. Cooked food does not. And vibrations. If you want peace, the choice is clear, plants. We cannot have peace by eating death. We cannot have peace by eating suffering, or by separating mothers from children. As Neil Barnard many times explained, those cows separated from their calves, they are crying all night. My final point is this. Actually, very quickly, certain myths that I feel my experience debunked. I'm not going to get into the vocal ones, but in terms of diet, I don't count calories, I don't count protein, and thanks to great organizations like PCRM and your wonderful messaging, I became aware of the issues, about oil, etc. The Thrive diet uses certain oils, I think in reasonable amounts, but I said, I'm gonna make it a crescendo, and I will see what's gonna happen. And actually, it works. And I lost some weight fat that apparently I was keeping in my body. In this 1 year, since the beginning of the pandemic, since I discovered you, exam room, since I left the oils kind of out of the picture. By the way, this was last year, the PETA thing. Mm-hmm. I was voted, for, maybe you can say it for me.
You were voted one of PETA's most beautiful vegans over 50.
Thank you. Now, I'm a private person, and I don't like to draw attention to myself. I even hesitated to enter that competition. Kind of at the last minute, maybe 5 minutes before the deadline, something that I applied. The reason I stepped forward in life, social media, this and that, with all of these, is I said, I think this service to society. You said many times to your guests, too good not to share, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly what I felt. I need to share this because there are all these dogmas. You need to eat meat, you need to have dairy, you need to have this and that. False. Zero. My experience proves that you can live on plants perfectly, vibrantly, healthily, happily. And as I live like that, I'm supporting the happiness and health of everything around me. I'm not exploiting anything. So I decided to show up, not show off, to show up with my experience. And I'm grateful to you for inviting me here to share these with the world, because my website is there, but how many people are checking that, right? We have a much bigger audience. The answer is love. Loving ourselves and loving everything. Love is not a poetic idea. It is not even necessarily a feeling. It is the realization of who we are and seeing it everywhere. And that is the answer to all the problems, in my opinion, in society. So we are talking about diet, this and that, but if I may say this finally, I'm sorry that it took a little too long. I believe all the ills of humanity throughout history has only one root cause, and that is body identification. Identifying with a body, name, form, person, and that creates division, separation, wars, exploitation of others, whether human, animal, nature, etc. Racism, that's also an illusion. And even eating animals, exploiting them, that's a form of racism. If people say humans are superior to all else, that's a form of racism. My answer is, if you look at a rosary, there are beads. But what connects the beads? Since the beginning of the pandemic, I've been hearing, oh, everything is connected. Everything is interconnected. Everybody's talking about that. But no one is talking about what connects us. Those beads are not magically staying together without a basis. And that basis is that string or the thread. Let us see that. Let us find that in ourselves. Then we'll see that there are no others. I am you and you are I. And I have discussions with my students, right? From different, say, different colored bodies. And I say, I'm not white. You are not black. I am you, you are I. We are one and the same. And again, this is not a poetic idea. This is the truth, that we can find this in ourselves. This understanding, this realization fueled my journey. And diet is a critical part of it.
Like I said, you are a soulful, deep individual, my friend. And I wish that we did have a lot more time that we could dive into this, because that is a days-long discussion that we could be having on that philosophical topic. That is for sure. But I am really glad that you were able to be here with us today to share your journey, which I said at the top was very unique. And certainly you have proven that to be 100% true. And I also really quickly, as we wrap up, I want to mention here in the last 30 seconds, coming up in November, you're going to be teaming up with Joanna Kong for the Compassion in the Arts Festival. So really quickly, in 30 seconds, can you tell us what that is?
Thanks to the PITA contests, Joanna Kong, she and I found each other, and we started this wonderful artistic collaboration, artistic activism collaboration, and we are preparing a performance for the Compassion Arts Festival in November. It will be online. We are in the beginning of the project, and I hope Joanna and I will continue this collaboration for a long time. She's a wonderful pianist. She recently spoke in PCRM's Climate Summit. She has wonderful videos on YouTube. I encourage everyone to see them. And I really encourage everyone to really meditate on everything we discussed today. Because not only humans, animals, plants, everything, if we see ourselves in them, the rest is peace.
That's it, my man. Very well said. Very well said. And like I said, I wish that we had a little bit more time, but we have to leave it right here for now. But thank you so very much for sharing your story with us today. And just congratulations on everything, man. And just keep speaking your truth, my friend.
Thank you so much, my friend. Thank you. Thank you.
If your health IQ is a couple of points higher than it was a few minutes ago, go ahead and like this video or subscribe to the YouTube channel. And to take it even higher, head over to Apple Podcast or wherever you get your favorite shows. Look for The Exam Room by the Physicians Committee. Hit the subscribe button there as well and help to make your world a healthier place.